Here with you for the Here For It Live program today. My guest is Elizabeth Beth Smith Bovin, and she is the executive director of the Alzheimer's Association here in the Northeastern New York chapter of New York. And so, Beth, I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you for taking the time to chat with me today.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's get right into it. I mean, I think a lot of people know Alzheimer's Foundation, Alzheimer's disease. It's like a nasty one. It's one with like that really, affects almost everyone at some capacity. I was just telling you that my in-laws just are traveling back to the Southeast to deal with this. My mother-in-law just lost her brother from complications of Alzheimer's disease, and it is just like the worst. To see somebody that you love, see somebody that was so energetic and funny and just amazing human in our lives kind of start to deteriorate. So I would love for you to kind of talk to us more about the Alzheimer's Foundation. And it's a two-mission thing, right? It's not just bringing awareness to Alzheimer's disease, but it's got some other purposes as well. So tell us about those.
Sure. So you're absolutely right. Everybody knows somebody that's impacted by Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's is, of course, the most common form of dementia. So they're not synonymous terms. Dementia being an umbrella term that describes cognitive losses, and Alzheimer's being the most common form of dementia. Alzheimer's currently affects 6.2 million Americans, 411,000 of whom live here in New York. And so I think one of the things that makes me proudest about working for our association is that we have a dual-fold mission, as you just mentioned. We believe that it's very important to be leaders in the research space so that we find more robust treatments and ultimately a cure for this devastating disease. But we also understand how important it is to support those families that you just described, your own being one of them, while they're on this journey. This journey lasts an average of 12 years. For some people, it's shorter, but for some, it's up to 20. And so they need support and education and guidance throughout this long process.
So, I want to talk about that a little bit, because I don't think people realize that, the need for support and community around the family members, so in our situation, our Uncle Evan's wife was a nurse. So she's been the primary caretaker and support system for him. And that's really hard to live with someone with Alzheimer's. And, as time goes on, it gets worse, and it gets really, really hard to see someone you love so much and see someone that you, like I said earlier, like had so much energy and was so much fun and just so much going for them, to see them, and obviously we see this with the old age, right? Like, I mean, I could talk about this about my grandparents and stuff, but it's different. And it's not something that you can prepare for, really, almost like nobody wants to prepare for, because they never want to think about their loved ones going through this. But what does the Alzheimer's Foundation do to support the families? I mean, I'm assuming there are programs and resources and endless kind of support for the family side of it, in addition to the patient. But again, I feel like there are systems in healthcare at play to take care of the patient, and not necessarily like we kind of leave the family behind.
Right. No, you're absolutely right. And to your point, as Nancy Reagan said many, many years ago, Alzheimer's disease is the long goodbye. And so this is a disease that begins with very mild, very subtle symptoms. In fact, symptoms that are easy to miss in the beginning, right? Mild changes in memory, a little bit of episodic confusion or difficulty with word retrieval, much like we see in aging. But then it becomes obvious that this is different, because the memory loss becomes more widespread, the confusion is more common, the personality and behavior changes, the ability to make language changes. And then as this disease progresses, it moves into an area where people are no longer able to manage their activities of daily living. So simple tasks like bathing, showering, mouth care, things people have done for now 50, 60, 70, 80 years of their lives, they completely lose those skill sets. By the time this disease enters its third and final stage, patients are completely dependent on their caregivers or care partners. And so throughout this journey, families are watching things change and evolve. So they need information and they are losing this loved one a little bit at a time. And so they need support. The programs and services of the Alzheimer's Association start with a 24-hour helpline. And again, that is managed by people with either MSW or PhD prepared to address people's questions about dementia at 3 in the afternoon or 3 in the morning on Christmas or on Tuesday. And it's a very important service. It often leads people to our care consultations, which are more in-depth meetings that happen at the local chapter. Our chapter is one of 85 in the nation. So we provide those local services. We provide safety services because 60% of people with Alzheimer's will wander and get lost at some phase in their disease. We provide support groups, and that's really where families teach each other how to cope and how to manage and strategies for success. We provide educational programs, and we provide early stage engagement to get people connected to us when they're just starting this journey so they know what to expect and they have us as a connection in their lives.
And is there something like, maybe this is just like random minutia and not factual, but you'd be the one to tell me, is there a trend that we are seeing it in younger patients, like early onset? Is that because we are more educated and we're more aware of the disease, so we can find and notice it more, or is it like we're declining?
So there's a few things. I think the first is that we are better identifying this disease. And we are studying it more. The investment in the National Institute of Health has grown so much over the last 8 years, from $500 million to $3.4 billion. And we needed that investment to change the research trajectory. And as such, we've learned a number of things, including that women are more susceptible than men to this disease. We've learned how to better identify the disease. And we have also seen a rise in early onset cases, those folks diagnosed before the age of 60. Now, whether or not that's entirely due to better identification, or are there environmental things that might be impacting this disease, much like we're learning about environment and blood cancer and environment and breast cancer. So I think there's a whole lot to this. We just recently read a review about a study that was done on processed foods and the increased risk for individuals who consume more than 20% of their calories from processed foods at a much higher risk for developing dementia. So what are we eating? What are we breathing? What are we fertilizing our food with? And is that impacting not only our body, but our brain?
Yeah, and then what do you say? I'm like kind of deep diving here, but like, what do you say to somebody who's like, I don't want to know if I have it, because it doesn't solve anything, and inevitable is already, in motion. So I'd rather just, be ignorance is bliss. So what are the benefits of finding or identifying it sooner?
Yeah, so I think there are two main benefits. One is that you can be part of a trajectory for treatment and or a possible cure. So right now there are 3 medications in phase 3 FDA trial, and they have a great deal of promise at being disease-modifying therapeutics. But truthfully, therapeutics for any disease, including Alzheimer's disease, are not as impactful, they're not as effective if we take them late in the disease process, because damage has already occurred that perhaps we could have slowed or stopped if we had engaged in early treatment. The second part of this is a practical piece, and that is that people with this disease will lose cognitive skills and ability to make judgments, including legal and financial judgments. And so I can tell you that at least once a week or once a month, we hear from a family who says, we went to do the power of attorney and healthcare directives with my parent, but he or she is too far along in the disease process. And what do we do now? We can't capture their wishes. And the only thing to do in that particular perspective is to go before a judge and try to pursue a guardianship for that individual. It's an expensive process, it's a challenging process, it's painful for the individual who has to go through those assessments with a law guardian, and all of it could be avoided by early identification, good planning, and seeking all possible treatment avenues.
Wow. So in addition to being educated and aware of this disease and the impacts of it on our lives, what are other ways that we can get involved and support Alzheimer's Foundation? I know of Alzheimer's Foundation that you're walking people, right? So you
Yes,
do a lot of
walking
walking all
people.
across the country.
Walk. Oh, wrong
Yeah,
side, yes.
you can pretty much find a walk anywhere in a city near you. But tell us more on the local level how we can get involved.
Absolutely. So first, let me say that everybody has a part to play in research if your life has been impacted by Alzheimer's disease. I participate in a 7-year longitudinal study through UCLA. I go online and complete a cognitive assessment. I am 62 now, and I had a stroke when I was in my 40s, so that puts me at higher risk for developing this disease. So if I can add to the science, I'm happy to do so. And every contribution to the science will help us all in the end game. So that's one way to help. The second thing is to help fuel our mission through that critical awareness and funding, and that's our Walk to End Alzheimer's. So this is nearly a $100 million project, $98 million nationwide, with over 600 walks, and 5 of them happen right here in the northeastern New York area. So our first walk comes up on September the 24th in Oneonta. Our next one and our largest one is our Albany or Capital Region walk, and that will be at the Crossings Park in Colony on October 1st. And then we have 3 more to follow in the month of October. We go up to Queensbury, we go to Columbia Green, and we finish out the walk season this year in Schenectady at the beautiful Mohawk Harbor on the 22nd of October. So everybody and anybody can walk or contribute to a walker.
And there are a couple of different ways that you can get involved in that, right? You could sponsor it, you can create a team to walk with, you can, join as an individual and just show up. You can register day of and walk. We are going to do the October 1st one, and I'm going to bring all my
wonderful.
I know that it's a family-friendly event, which I love. So tell us, we go to a website, and like I said, there are multiple ways that you can be part of this. And I've never actually been to one physically, but I know Nicole and Stephanie have mentioned it's overwhelming, the amount of people that show up, and it truly is like just an energy force that you feel when you're there. To know that you're walking with people who are impacted and who are experiencing what you're experiencing, and it really is transformative.
Yeah, it really is. I've done many walks for many different organizations, going way back to high school when I did my first MDA walk. And our walk is unique in that we have a very special and very poignant ceremony at the beginning of our walk. It's called the Promise Garden Ceremony. And every single person that comes to our walk is given a flower, one of the flower pinwheels that spins in the wind. And each of those flowers, there are 4 colors, correspond with what we say are our reasons for walking. So some people hold a blue flower because they are living with the disease, yellow flower if they're caregiving for someone, an orange flower if they are a community advocate, and then a purple flower, sadly, if they lost somebody to this disease. And we have somebody on stage with me for representing each of these flowers. And when they hold their flower up, people in the audience hold their flowers up as well. And I've done this ceremony for 10 years, for 5 walks, and every single time those purple flowers, which tend to be the majority, go in the air, you can just feel the air come out of the room, but you can also feel the support from all of the people that are there. It is so emotional and it's so special. The first walk that I did with the Promise Garden Ceremony, I saw 2 women who had never met each other. And one went over so the one was a caregiver holding a yellow flower, and the one was holding a purple flower, which means she lost her loved one. And the one with the purple flower walked over to the yellow flower holder and said, I was holding a yellow flower last year. And they both cried and embraced, and they had never met each other. And it was then that I began to call our walk the world's biggest support group, because it is filled with so much love and compassion for one another. It's really a special event. And this year we have a very special guest holding the blue flower at our October 1st walk, Eugenia Zuckerman, who is an author and was the CBS correspondent for the arts for over 25 years, has written a book about this disease, and she will be joining us on the 1st with her husband, and they will hold the blue and yellow flowers. So
yes, she was y'all's keynote speaker at the last event the gala, and it was really cool. My mom came with me to that event, and I met her, and she was just, like, again, it goes back to like people who you have so much to give the world and to share their experiences, and it's just one of those things where it's, I'm just so happy that she can eloquently communicate and put in this book, like the thought that she, the thought she had to put it in a book, is so huge when she's aware that she has this disease and that it's going to impact her and as time goes on. And what I mean, how I in the room when she had her keynote at your gala last year.
She was amazing, wasn't she?
Yes. I mean, yes. It's just wild, and I struggle with. Just to be frank, I struggle with like the types of people that get this disease. It's just not right, and it's frustrating. And I just like, again, that's why we need the Alzheimer's Foundation, because you do wrap yourself and your foundation around these families that are grappling with that, So I appreciate all that you do. And I wanted to also like kind of touch base to you, because I said you've been doing this for 35 years, but you've been in the healthcare industry in the geriatric space and Alzheimer's space for 37 years. I said 35, you're like, nope, 37. So like, how do you keep at it? Because it's like, it's hard work. It's really emotionally challenging work to be doing this day in, day out. So how do you stay forward, stay moving forward?
So that's a great question, and I appreciate you saying that. When I graduated from Siena College 40 years ago, I anticipated going to work with families and children. It was what I always wanted to do, and I did that for a little bit. And then there was an opportunity to be a nursing home social worker to cover a maternity leave for a woman. And I said, you know what, I'm going to try that. I don't think I'm going to like geriatric work, but I'll try it. I fell madly in love. And thankfully, she didn't return. So I got to keep the job on a permanent basis because she stayed home with her little boy, which was wonderful for her and wonderful for me. And it shaped my life. And then it was the Alzheimer's caregivers that shaped my journey, because they would come in to look at nursing home admission or to consider nursing home services after providing care and support for 10 years at home. And I would listen to them tell these stories. And I would think to myself, you've devoted so much of your life to this person. I have to learn more about the disease so I can help you. And I became very active in the Alzheimer's Association as a volunteer 37 years ago. And then I went on to work in various aspects of Alzheimer's disease. I was the director of the Alzheimer's Center at Albany Med for 10 years. And then 10 years ago, left there to take on this role at the Alzheimer's Association. And it's interesting that you say it's challenging, and it is. And there are heartbreaking stories all of the time. But I can't imagine in my wildest dreams ever having found a more rewarding occupation. I've loved every minute of it, every family, their journey, thinking that perhaps we've helped families with this very difficult journey, even in the smallest way, is the most rewarding thing I could have ever chosen to do.
Wow. I mean, like, I am moved by just you saying that, because I think that so many people go through their whole lives and feel lost. They don't know what they want to do with their career. They're not feeling fulfilled. And, it's people like you that are just so inspiring and encouraging to me and to our community that, find something you're passionate about, find something that you can make an impact doing, and just stay the course. It's amazing. So thank thank you so much for being here. I am excited about the walk on October 1st, and anyone that wants to get involved with this foundation, it's such a great group of, you have a great staff. I love everyone that works there. The event that I went to last year was awesome. And like I said, I met people that I've never knew about. Actually, Eugenia, I'm a CBS Sunday morning person. I watch CBS Sunday morning like religiously. It's like my church. So to have her, I was like really excited to hear her speak. So I had such a great time, and it really moved me. So I'm excited to be part of the event on October 1st. And thank you again so much for sharing your time with us and telling us more about the work that we can do to support you.
Thank you. And for anyone interested, alz.org/walk. Everything you need to know is there.
Awesome. Very, very simple. And I'll also put it in the comments everywhere here. And thank you again so much. Have a good rest of your day and a great weekend.
Thank you.